This is the Great Johanna speaking for yet another live stream. I decided that I probably will start doing live streams every day from Monday through Thursday. So Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Just like the Daily Show or like the Colbert Report or something, but then with me. And for this episode, my live streams are live. I prepare some topics, but then other than that, it's going to be interactive with my audience. I will talk to the people who ask me questions in the chat box, and I will also post this recording to my YouTube at The Great Johannes. So today, I was thinking of what Trump said at the Davos conference. There's another sort of World Economic Forum conference at Davos, led by this Klaus Schwab guy. There was one funny moment that I saw is that the leader of Germany, Olaf Scholz, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, he's like a prime minister really, because there's also a German president, but the German president does not really spend too much time in front of TV cameras. He's a bit more in the background, a background figure. But the Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who we would call him a prime minister in the UK or so, right? He did a talk with Klaus Schwab sitting next to him. So all those conspiracy theories about Klaus Schwab are quite true. The leaders of the world are sitting right next to him during these talks, and there was a question, like Klaus Schwab then asked the audience, okay, are there any questions? Silence. Nobody had anything to ask Olaf Scholz a thing, because I think everybody realizes that Olaf Scholz, or even Germany, isn't really in charge of its own destiny anymore. It's not in charge of itself, right? Oh, hello, Katja. Yeah, I decided to do the live streams from Monday through Thursdays, like 4 nights a week. So I'm going to start doing that more often. So tomorrow, Friday, I will take a day off. I won't do it on the weekend, but then Monday again. I feel that it's useful to speak more, to to expose more people with my thoughts about what I want to achieve in this world. It basically boils down to this. I believe that Europe can revive its culture, its economies, its civilization. And we just need to go and start doing that, because I'm honestly a bit tired of the present situation. Look at the United Kingdom. That's a horror example almost of how evil things have become. The Southport killer. He was arrested, and now he pleaded guilty. The Axel Rudy Cabana, and everything that we said about him shortly after the attack turns out to be true. But you were sent to jail for saying so. So he was a terrorist. His attack was religiously motivated. He was a Muslim, or is a Muslim, and the way he murdered those girls, basically cutting their throats and attempting to decapitate them. At least one of them, her head had almost come off. And so that kind of evil is what we are facing in our society. But the government and the media's responses to it is consistently to beat down the white people, the evil white people who did nothing wrong, really. I have to check some settings for my live stream in terms of the chat box on screen that I'm showing to my for the recording. Just a moment. I'll do this one. Yeah. Apply. So that should be all right then. Yeah. Okay. Hi from the UK. Yeah. Good to see you here. All right. People were walking out crying during the trial. Really, the Rudy Cabana trial. Yeah. So amazingly, he pleaded guilty. That means he's convicted now to like 50 years in prison, which, okay, it's fitting. It's a fitting punishment. Probably in the Netherlands, he would have probably have gotten like 18 years plus a cut for good behavior. He would have been out in 12 or so, right? Because in the Netherlands, we had a guy who murdered a Dutch politician, Pim Fortuyn, and he got like something like 18 years and was out after 12, and for good behavior. So at least in the UK, I suppose you actually go to jail for 50 years when you murder a bunch of kids like that, right? Yeah, I was gonna precisely talk about this, about Trump and what he said at Davos. That's what we were talking about. So the Davos conference, the town of Davos is the highest situated town in Europe. So it's right, get it? So it's the highest elevation of towns. So that's why they chose Davos as for the summit. See, so if they have like a conference and they call it the summit, that's why they chose Davos. Uh, and Davos brings together during this conference um, basically mostly political people, the prime ministers and so on, and the political people, to discuss apparently what they're going to do to us. How are they going to screw us over next? And Trump apparently, through a live connection from the White House, I suppose, or I don't know exactly where Trump was. He wasn't there, but Trump did a live stream and he said something that caught my attention. He said Charlie Kirk spoke about this on Twitter X. I don't trust Charlie Kirk and that New Point, what's it, Turning Point USA. I don't trust those people at all. But he said something like he wants the Saudi Arabian princess, they're going to invest $600 billion in the US economy. And then Trump said he wishes it were $1 trillion, 1,000 billion, right? And then, of course, as a European, it's a bit confusing because what you call a billion in the USA is only a milliard in Europe. So it sounds bigger. $1 trillion would be a billion for us, I suppose. Okay, that could be a bit confusing. A bit confusing. But then I then immediately questioned, okay, you want Arabs, Muslims, hardcore, hardline Wahhabi Muslims to invest in your US economy. What are they going to get for it? Well, the answer is infrastructure, bridges, roads, whatever, canals, tunnels, farmland, resources, landmarks, right? Real estate, right? And how do I know that? Well, that's what the Chinese have been doing in Europe. Europe has been up for sale for quite some time now. China, for example, purchased the Petraeus harbor of Greece several years ago, and they were looking even to buy the harbor of Hamburg in Germany. And that didn't go through, I suppose, but that's how it goes when you are bankrupt. European nations are effectively bankrupt, and we are selling our landmarks and our infrastructure, harbors, and so on to foreign buyers. Partly, it's because of the following. The logic that I perceive behind it is as follows. For many decades, we in the West have been buying Arab oil. So they have a lot of dollars because the oil is sold in dollars. And what are they going to do with all those dollars? If you know that the Saudi family, the royal family alone has like $800 billion combined or something, right? Or trillions maybe even. What are they going to do with it? Well, they're going to use that money to buy us out. And if our politicians are willing, if our elites are corrupt enough, they're going to start selling off everything that we own. Like farmland in England is being... Why do you think they want to tax farmers with the inheritance tax in the UK? Why are they hitting farmers in the Netherlands with the nitrogen story, as though their farms are somehow harming the environment, right? It's to get those farmers to sell up. In the Netherlands, since the attacks on the recent attacks on farmers have started, about 1,000 farmers have indeed sold their farms to the state. And what's the state going to do with it? Well, development for maybe migrant housing, or even also possibly they're selling the land to foreign buyers, maybe Saudis, maybe Qatari, maybe Dubai people or Chinese people. They're selling the land to foreigners as well. And so they're going to diversify, multiculturalize our land. You know, it's one thing to have diversity in Rotterdam and Amsterdam. It's a whole nother level of disaster and catastrophe if your countryside is Islamized, right? And that's what they're doing next. Because our ruling classes, the elites in the Western world, they're just traitors. They don't care about their own people. All they're doing at this moment is they feel that they have the right to sell our landmarks, roads, and farmland and so on to foreign buyers just for the money, so that our own rich people in the West can collect the money. Obviously, they get a cut, or they collect the money, right? And that's what this is all about. It's one gigantic act of treason. These are Western governments, whether they are left-wing, like the ones in Europe, or whether they are supposedly right-wing, as Trump in the USA, they're both doing the same damn thing. They're selling us out. They're sellouts. It's treason. So I hope you enjoy my rants. Yeah, Saudi Arabia at this point, they own half of London. They own the real estate and so on. Russians too, right? They're selling to the Russians. I thought we were at war with Russia, but we're selling everything we own to them. Yeah, Trump is doing some things right. He goes against the woke, and he canceled birthright citizenship to children of immigrants or something. Okay, well, how does that really affect you if he's also going to bring in 15 million Indians? He's going to sell important property, important real estate to the Arabs. He's selling you out anyway. So he gives you this little bit of, oh, we're going to do away with the 50 gender with the infinity genders. There's only 2 genders, and then, but those things are cheap, right? The real money he makes, the big bucks, the dollar signs Trump sees in his eyes, is when he sells his people out. He's selling off your future. He's selling off the white middle class's future. Why doesn't England take back control of London? The question is, do you even want to when 2/3 of that place aren't even native British anymore? Maybe at some point you recognize that cities are a form of cancer and what you want is radiation therapy. Yeah, that's why you follow me. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, he does a little bit for them, right? To keep you satisfied. Here's a piece of candy. Now shut up, right? No pillar of ethics, yeah. Yeah, he's selling the working man's future and the middle class white man's future as well. Yeah. That means, in my view, if we don't have governments, if we don't have leaders who are fighting for us, then we are free to go our own way. And I don't mean that in a MGTOW sense of the men going their own way movement. I mean that in the sense of we're going to start over, building our own nations, find the land that we can defend with the weapons that we can make, right? And then hoist a new flag and sing a new anthem and basically just start over. Like they did in Orania in South Africa. There's this community called Orania where they just started over. It's a religious community. It's a fast-growing community. They're economically sound, right? We could do that in 1,000 other places. So I would call that an empire of 1,000 ethno-states where we all gather our people together and go out and do something. And in my vision, that means there can even be like left-wing attempts of this, left-wing versions of it and right-wing versions of it, libertarian versions of it. As long as we do that, as long as we just cut loose from this mess and accept that our politicians work for millionaires who work for billionaires who don't care about our future. They're just selling us out. We need to get rid of them. And the best way to get rid of them is not to fight them, frontally attack them, right, head first, but simply to turn our backs to them and walk out. Turn our backs to them and walk out, and let the cities, especially the cities, let them deteriorate. Let the cities decline. Let the cities go to hell. We're just going to walk out and we hold on to what is dear to us, which is fertile land where our children can flourish again, right? And we need to think of protection. We need our own armies, our own militias, because you have to defend your land against, for example, the empire's soldiers. When they send the soldiers to your door, you better be able to defend yourself. So we need community guerrillas, effectively. This is why years ago I was reading Che Guevara's. I know Che Guevara is like a communist leftist, but he wrote a book about guerrilla warfare. So I recommend you read a book like that. There's another book, Ernst Jünger's The Forest Passage. Read a book like that. It's all about how to win guerrilla warfare. First and foremost, by hardening your mind, your heart, your soul to do the job. There's a reason why the United States, with all its modern equipment, could not defeat the Taliban. the Taliban were using guerrilla tactics against these modern armies. And basically, although the Taliban couldn't effectively defeat the Americans, neither could the Americans defeat the Taliban. So it was a bit of a stalemate, right? And we can do that too. Imagine European men would turn themselves into guerrillas, willing to face off with modern armies, the modern EU army or the US army, whatever they're going to send after you, right? And even if we can't defeat them perfectly, we will be able to stop them. And that's what it's about. It's about stopping them, right? So that they cannot overcome us or defeat us, right? Thank you for sharing my life with all your friends. Yeah. You're doing a live on the 33 strategies of war later. Okay, I'll be watching it, I suppose. Yeah, it's also why Israel can't defeat Hamas. Hamas is using guerrilla tactics and partisans, guerrillas. Yeah. Yes, this is all for educational purposes only. I was watching this account on TikTok that explains all these guerrilla strategies and guerrilla tactics and how they basically the crux of guerrilla warfare is to lead the enemy into an ambush, and then that's how you defeat them, with ambushes. Always deceive them and so on. Right. Also, the Afrikaner people who once in the year 1901 or so, 1902, they had the Boer Wars, right? And these Afrikaner Boers, they took on the British Empire, and they were basically like, you know, horse riding Taliban Christians, then of course Christian Afrikaners, and they stopped the British Empire until the British, of course, turned to they built concentration camps, and they actually got the women and children to starve in the concentration camps. But even then, the Boer guerrilla warriors didn't quit fighting. They kept fighting the Anglo. That's the sort of attitude we're going to need. This Germanic attitude of, you know, death doesn't scare us. We will even fight in the face of death. We'll just go on anyway, because there's nothing else for us. You know, it's either victory or death. So there's nothing else to do than just to keep on fighting. And it's that mentality that we will need to ingrain in our people, you know, to turn against all this modernist, globalistic crap. Right, we need to do prepping, yeah. So I wonder what you guys, if you're watching this, what do you think about the current state of things, and how do we get out of this? How do we overcome these corrupt politicians who pretend to be our leaders in name only? They absolutely don't have any interest even. They have no incentive to do anything that is right for us. So I talk about Keir Starmer often, the UK Prime Minister. That's because he is just the epitome of everything wrong with the entire Western world, you know? What's scary is how good he is at lying to everyone's face. It's like it's his first nature, not even his second nature. It's his first nature. It's this guy was groomed from the earliest ages to be that pawn in the chess game of the globalists, to really harm the British common people, the working classes and the middle classes, and really make you feel like you're the bad guy for not wanting to go extinct. He is so eerily, creepily good at that game. You have to wonder about the psychology of people like him, and even more about the psychology of the sort of people who groomed him for that role. That's truly amazing. You have to imagine there are places where you actually get a sort of education in being a prick, right? That's what Keir Starmer is all about. It's really freaky. Yeah, most people are afraid of death, right? That's why they took the jabs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, they're afraid of death, but it's also like financial pain, financial death. Like people were probably mostly afraid of the 95 € fine that they were going to get, right? 95 € fine. All of them will just cut off our, right? Yeah. See, I'm looking at I'm using a TikTok live studio to stream this, so I can use my microphone for better sound. Let me see what this is all about. I see I can do co-host. If there are other people live, I could invite them or something, but my friends aren't live. And I can do multi-guest. Yeah, depends. I might someday do multi-guest when I invite certain people, if I feel like I trust them or something, or know what they're not going to talk about. Yeah. You have a layout. All right. Well, maybe for next time I can organize. Guests coming on the show, right? What about Nigel Farage? Isn't he just another globalist, Freemason goon, another gooner, right? Controlled opposition. Why don't you get into politics? Well, yeah, I don't think I can get into politics because it's impossible. It's fake. The democracy is fake. They won't allow newcomers to win anymore. You would have to do it differently. You'd have to first start a popular movement that can actually amass people to get them off their asses and go to the capital and protest in very large numbers, like 2 million people, for example. And non-violently, of course. If you can get 2 million people to surround Downing Street number 10, right? Non-violently, that's what works. You need to rally those numbers, and if you can't do that, then politics is basically a waste of time. The whole political system serves only the economic interests of the rich people. Now, you can join as a minority fringe party. Like in the Netherlands, we have FVD, Forum for Democracy. On the content level, they're great, but effectively, they've only got 3 seats in the parliament out of 150 in the Netherlands. And that means they'll never have any real influence. All they can do is play the media a little bit and make TikTok videos, and that's great. But it's not helpful, especially since in the Netherlands, several members of this party, the ones in parliament, have been hit with court cases and they've been convicted of hate speech, for example. So if you don't control the courts nowadays, you can't win with politics. And right, and it's the deep state, if you want to call it like that, who are truly in charge of the courts anyway, right? What do you think of JD Vance? Yeah, people like to ask me what I think of person X and person Y and person Z, but I think JD Vance is, another globalist. It's just all too weird. No, I don't think Nigel Farage will do anything about immigration, for the same reason that Geert Wilders in the Netherlands also hasn't done anything about mass immigration, even though his party was the winner last election. He got most seats in the parliament. He wasn't allowed to become prime minister, even though traditionally he should have, because the largest party in the Netherlands usually supplies the prime minister. And then Geert Wilders basically, what you do see him do is he goes to Ukraine and he takes a photo with Zelensky, and he says we need to back Ukraine to fight Russia more. All these people are either controlled ops, or they are Zionists, or they are Bolshevik globalists or communists or whatever. They never support the voice of the common people, of the middle classes and so on. It's just truly weird. Yeah, me neither. I don't believe in democracy anymore either, right? All right, so somebody looked up their genetics. So you're like 52% British and 48% Swedish, Norwegian, and some Austrian. Okay, very interesting. I took my DNA test as well a while ago, and I'm basically mostly Northwest European, like Germanic, and some Celtic influences. Yeah. The Welt, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I miss Vertigo Politics. If anybody knows who that was, I miss Vertigo Politics, but I don't know Solomon Henderson. Who's that? You know, you're part of the 100 million against Trump. Okay. Yeah. Thoughts on the Japanese? This Japanese people are quite interesting because there's only two people who are traditionally authoritarian patriarchal people. The Germanic people, Germans, and the others are the Japanese. So that's really interesting. This is why during World War II there was an alliance between Japan and Germany, because they represent a sort of similar culture where men basically were in charge more than anywhere else. Even the USA is not a patriarchal, not an authoritarian patriarchy. The USA is something, it's a sort of watered down version of a patriarchy. It's a bit different. Patriarchy in this sense has something to do with inheritances. In the German authoritarian patriarchy, the firstborn son would inherit all the wealth of his parents, of his father, and his siblings wouldn't get anything. Only the oldest daughter might succeed in marrying another guy who was the firstborn son, who would inherit his father's wealth, right? So it's about handing down, it's about how you hand down the wealth. That's what authoritarian patriarchy is, where the men basically always controlled all the wealth in Germany and Japan. And yeah, that's maybe a focus point for the reason why the United States and other allies actually hate Germany and Japan so much. They wanted to destroy the patriarchy. If you want to destroy the patriarchy, you have to destroy Germany and Japan. Look at German industry today. Look at what they did in Japan in the 1990s. Their stock market crashed by like 80% or 60%, and their housing prices crashed by 80% in the 1990s, 1989 or so, 1990. And they still haven't recovered from it. So Japan was financially destroyed and bombed, of course. And Germany was financially destroyed and bombed. And both Japan and Germany, after the Second World War, started producing cars. They started producing cars, but this mostly benefited American citizens. The American middle class were the ones buying those cars mostly, right? So Germany and Japan were bombed to shit, made financially, basically entered into financial slavery to the USA. They became servants of the US, vassal states. That's what really happened. And I would like to reverse course. I would like Japan and Germany and other patriarchal peoples to break out of this financial chain, right? And put ourselves back on the map, make ourselves, in charge of our own destiny. This is different from the US concept of manifest destiny, where they want to rule the world. I would like places like Germany and Japan to exist in opposition to globalism, like a rock in a wild sea. In the Dutch, we have a saying called rots in de branding. Imagine a rock in the wild sea, and the waves are crashing into it, but the rock doesn't budge, the rock doesn't move. That's what Germany and Japan could be. We could restore that ancient, traditional, patriarchal authority. And what that means to me is we might have a small community like the size of Germany or so, or a bit bigger, maybe like the old Holy Roman Empire, and then withstand the whole world if we need to. We don't need to be friends with everybody. We can rather be, first and foremost, supportive of ourselves, never back down, right? And then focus on strength, focus on intelligence and creativity. We're not going to do nothing. We're going to do everything we can possibly do, improving ourselves, right? All right, I need a bit of a sip. Vertigo Politics, that's a throwback, exactly. Yeah. Long time ago. But he made really good videos because he had a great voice for narrating, right? So far, I have not seen my regular Dutch troll army. For the past few days, I've been doing live streams, and every time I do them, Dutch-speaking trolls come into the chat to insult me. And now they're not. I haven't seen them yet. I'm starting to miss them, man. Just please come back. Please come and insult me again, No, seriously, I'm starting to miss I used to receive so many insults, and I had to work through that psychologically because it starts to affect you personally, right? It starts to affect you. Okay, I solved that. I kind of like I learned to really separate myself from the comments, and I don't allow comments to make me feel bad anymore. I totally overcame this, but now I start to miss them. I wish they would come back and give me more insults because I feel so much better than them when they do. See? Oh, your dad's family descent is from Mecklenburg and Hamburg. Yeah, very interesting, right? Right. Germany and Japan today are most militarily occupied by the USA. Indeed, Germany has like countless of American bases there, and this has been going on for a very long time, right? Mm. Definitely start studying philosophy. In philosophy, you have the left wingers and you have the right wingers. Although left wingers tend to write more books, so it's harder to find good books written by right wingers. A good place to start would be Ernst Jünger. Have you heard of him? Maybe I'll type in the name to make sure that you get it right. Ernst Jünger. He really espouses this aristocratic ideal, aristocratic right wingism. Right, you can start there, right? Yeah, it's easy to shock Dutch people, but I think with the Dutch people, there's a large group of Dutch people who've never heard the truth before, and when they hear it for the first time, they freak out and they start insulting you, right? Marcus Aurelius, yeah. With Nietzsche, there is a controversy that Nietzsche is partly right wing, but partly also left wing. He seems to be all over the place. That's why Nietzsche sometimes can be hard to interpret. Like, what do you really mean here? The thing with conservatism also is, what are you? Are you a value conservative? You just want to have your values? Or do you actually want to conserve your people, your language, your architecture? Because that's almost nationalism, right? Are you like an ethno-nationalist conservative? Great, right? Yeah, Julius Evola is also a very far right thinker. Yeah. So Julius Evola reasons more from the Roman Catholic point of view, but there's nothing wrong in that. I was also baptized Roman Catholic, but you need to be aware of where they're from. Where do these writers come from, right? So what's their angle, right? Islamic countries are matriarchal. It has something to do with the way they distribute wealth. In Islamic families, the women actually control the wealth, right? So in patriarchal Germany, a woman marries a man who has the money, but that man keeps the money. It's his. Whereas in Islam, you have to pay, you're a man, you have to pay the woman a dowry. You have to pay a dowry to the woman's family. That's a hallmark of matriarchal family system. So they're not really patriarchal, they're matriarchal. You know, it's very hard. The difference, I've spoken about this before. For example, polygamy, where men have multiple wives. Although it was practiced all over the world, it is very common among Muslims and African people also. That's actually a mark of the matriarchy. Yeah, believe it or not. In the patriarchal Germany, you wouldn't do that. Maybe the elites did. They always say that, oh, your elites were cannibals, your elites did this and so, and they did inbreeding. Yes, but the common people didn't, and that's the whole point. You're an ethno-state nationalist, yeah. Yeah, me too. uh, I just feel that instead of choosing the easiest path, we choose the most rewarding path, even if it means we sometimes have to struggle through it and fight it. I'll give you a small example. 2 years ago, I think I was hiking in Norway, the Hardanger Vida, the Hardanger Meadow, basically. It's a huge natural park in the south of Norway. Even in the summertime, when you hike up the mountains, you will find snow, cold, rain, hail. I saw all of it. So I chose this hiking trail, which was poorly marked, by the way. There's a tourist section up to the Trolltunga, where you have massive views of these valleys, incredible deep valleys. Very scary also if you're literally standing on the edge and it goes like 300 meters down, straight down. You're like, whoa, okay, watch out, right? Anyway, you can then go on, hike further up the mountains. And there are sections where you have this molten ice water. The snow is melting. You have these streams of ice water rushing through a sort of crevasse. And then basically you have a very simple rock with an arrow pointing that way. Figure it out. What are you supposed to do now? So you can try to find your ways around it. You can't because it's all water. And so there's this small section where you literally have to jump across. So I was by myself. So I thought, okay, I took off my big, huge backpack. I swung my backpack across. Okay. And now there was no way back for me. See, I had to just jump it. So, okay. I studied what I was supposed to do and I just jumped. And I'm glad I made it, because if I had slipped and fallen or something, right? And there's other sections that look so dangerous. Like you have a sort of a sheet of melting snow over icy river underneath the snow. And that's what you're supposed to walk over. If I would have sunken through the snow, I would have drowned or something, right? It's dangerous as fuck, man. Like these Norwegians, they think that's normal or something, but you have to be almost an experienced mountaineer to do those things, right? That they didn't tell me about that in the brochure. I was reading their brochure, and it's all like nice pictures of flowers and green, and when you get there, it's all snow and ice. Right? Well, I think it was in July or June, probably June. It was still snow and ice there. Right? A leap of faith, exactly. Yeah. Oh, you've been there too. Yeah, very great. Yeah, and they're. Nietzsche said we live our lives over and over again. Oh yeah, the eternal, what's it called? The eternal return. Yeah, Nietzsche believed that the whole reality repeats itself over and over again. Yeah, and the eternal return. Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept. And so Nietzsche says, therefore, you must live the life that you really want, so that if you have to do it over and over again, at least you're doing what you want to do over and over again. Yeah. I don't really believe that though. I think when I die, it's over. I think there is an end to me. Although I do believe in a sort of concept of, say, maybe ascension, like you might become a spirited being and go to heaven or something like that, right? But I do believe you only get one chance at life. I don't personally think my life is going to repeat over and over again, right? Maybe I used to believe that I used to entertain Nietzsche's possibility of the eternal return, but it's just not something for me. The eternal return sounds to me like Promethean. You know, Prometheus, the god who was punished for because Prometheus was a Greek god who came down from heavens and gave humans fire, the gift of fire, which is a metaphor for intelligence. Basically, Prometheus gave intelligence to human beings, and he was punished for it. He had to like push a rock up. Or no, that was Sisyphus. I mean, Prometheus was an eagle would come and cut and eat his liver or something. And every time his liver would grow back, the eagle would come back, something like that. So that's the idea of eternal return, a punishment where you have to relive your punishment over and over and over and over again. I think Nietzsche came up with the idea because when Nietzsche was younger, guess what? He actually studied Prometheus. So maybe that's why, huh? You had a philosopher teacher who was also a physics teacher and very religious. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. I had no, I didn't have that. My physics teacher was an autist. My biology teacher in high school was he was atheist, and so on. Yeah, yeah. Depends who you meet, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. Nietzsche said his best ideas came to him when he was walking and hiking. Yeah. I would agree that to a large degree that's true. Physical activity, though, slow walks through nature give you a lot of thoughts, but you can also modulate that a bit. If you want to go play ice hockey or something, or you're going to go do some heavy lifting, you also get ideas, but they're a bit different. this morning I was doing some ice hockey practice, believe it or not. I got ice hockey skates, I got a stick and a puck and so on. And I fell on my knee. It's all bruised now because I didn't buy knee pads yet. I'm going to get those next. You were never religious at all until you felt the Holy Ghost at church when you were 22 years old. Yeah. Should I tell you my story about when I became much more religious than before? So I grew up in a household. At first, we were a bit religious. My parents were Christian, right? And we would go to church sometimes on Sundays. And I think around age 10, we quit going. My parents were maybe too overworked or something. They simply lost their faith. I think at some point when I was 10 years old, my father told me that he kind of no longer believed in God. He wasn't sure if God was real. And he started to take an interest in Charles Darwin and so on. And then I kind of was set off on this path of atheism. And I started to listen to Richard Dawkins and so on. And Dan Dennett and, those, the four horsemen of militant atheism. There's also, I forgot the other. There's two others. I forgot their names. And then much later in life, I was around 34, 35 years old already. I was hiking in northern Sweden along the Kungsleden Trail, the King's Trail. Kungsleden means the King's Trail. And I'm hiking. I started on the north side and then hiking south so I could face the sun. And I'm hiking first through bushes, shrubs, and then you have a birch tree forest, and you get higher up to the point where you hike above the tree line. There's no more trees. It was a wonderful hike, like almost 10 days, 14 days, probably 2 weeks that it took me because I took some breaks here and there. I had my backpack with my trekker stand and so on. And I got to this pass. This was maybe the third day already. The highest point of the whole trail was the Chekcha Pass. There's a log cabin there before you do it. So I walk up the Chekcha Pass, and on my way up, there was this melting ice water flowing, and I actually fell into it to my ribs almost. And I had to use my backpack as a buoy on the snow to keep myself afloat, so I could climb back out of the water while as I turned around, I saw 10 people watching me in disbelief, I had chosen the wrong path. So anyway, all of us then found another route up. And so we reached the peak with this team of 10 people or 11 people or so, myself included. There was a very small wooden cabin all the way up top where we could reheat ourselves, get warm again. Turns out if you put 12 people in a small cabin, their body heat will heat it up. If it's a small enough cabin, your body heat will heat it up and you will be warm. And so that's what we did. And then it's the descent. And so I'm going down and we're facing this massive valley. And I sit down by a rock because the sun's coming out. You have to imagine it's almost a blue sky. There's a couple of clouds hiding the sunlight. The clouds moved and the sun appeared. So I thought, okay, this is a nice moment to take my socks off, dry my socks in the sunlight, right? And as I'm sitting there, the other people, they moved along already. So I'm by myself again. And I'm overlooking this massive valley with a ridge of mountains left and right of me, right? And I see there this small, in the distance, this small wooden log cabin, which is the next point that I was going to. And in that moment, the sun, everything was cold. The soil was cold, right? My socks were cold, my hands were cold, but the sunlight was warm. And so the sunlight heats my face. I feel all warm again. And it was in that moment that I realized, I was never alone. God was always with me. So that was my spiritual awakening. In that moment, I remember it very well. In that moment, I began to feel I'm not living my life alone anymore. There's always somebody who will support me, right? And whatever you call that, I call it God, right? And so I changed. I became more religious in this sense, not in the sense of following this or that doctrine, but certainly in the sense of feeling a spiritual truth is out there for me at least. And this is my personal decision, of course, right? So that's how it happened to me. I love your comments, so I'm gonna look through some more over here. All right, heaven is real, man. You were so shocked that God was real like that, yeah? I can imagine that you have some kind of spiritual epiphany, right? I think that's very real. Better than to be an empty vessel, right? I have read Solzhenitsyn's 200 Years Together as well, right? In the English translation, of course, which was at the time wasn't even finished yet. So I read the first parts or so. Yeah, absolutely. The Greeks said that you have to go back till you go to nirvana. All right, all right. Until you, oh, meaning like you have to do it over and over again until you succeed in what you're supposed to do, and then you go to nirvana. Okay, something like that. Yeah. Who's my favorite artist? I couldn't tell you. The Kungsleden, yeah. Has it been on your list? Yeah. I would also love to hike the Appalachian Trail. The only downside is it's in the USA. I'd have to go to the USA to do it. No, there are other trails in Europe that I might still do, but I don't do hiking every year, man. Long hikes, maybe once every 3 years or so. I was thinking of going to the Lofoten in Norway. You can do a 5-day trail there on the Lofoten Islands in the summer, of course, right? All right. My favorite book by Nietzsche. I don't have. It's more. My favorite book about Nietzsche is Carl Jung's seminar on Nietzsche's Zarathustra. I want to type that in so that you can see it. Carl Jung's seminar on Nietzsche's Zarathustra. Can't type quickly because this is a 1600 page book. Really going into the deep, dark, occult side of Nietzsche's philosophy of Zarathustra. Basically, the conclusion is that Nietzsche felt he was possessed by the actual spirit of Zarathustra, Zoroaster, a Persian or Iranian prophet. And that's how he spilled the beans. That's how he wrote the book, basically, through the voice of Zarathustra. Kissed by the sun, yeah. Some atheist religion is money and power. I suppose so. Like, when you look at society nowadays, what do people really believe in? Well, they're told to believe in technology, technological progress, efficiency, money. All those things serve an economy, but they don't serve you as a humanity. You know, 25 years ago, the cell phone became popular in the Netherlands. And there's this video, a popular video, where they ask people if they think they're going to need a cell phone. And they all said, like, no, of course not. I don't need a cell phone. I've got a phone at home. I've got an answering machine at home. Why would I need a cell phone to carry it with me wherever I go? And we laugh at it now. But we also have now laws in the Netherlands that employees may not be phoned by their bosses after 5 p.m. So clearly what people want is not to be bothered when they go about their day. People don't really want to be connected all the time. They don't. So the internet tech bros, they sell you this fantasy of we're all going to be connected, but people don't want to be connected all the time, right? People also want to have privacy of like, leave me alone. And it used to be a given that you would be left alone. Now they have to make a law to give you back your right to be alone after they took it from you, right? Right. We are victims of our own success trap, yeah. So, oh, you gotta go? Okay, you'll be back later. Very interesting. Yeah, come back later. Yeah. They arrested people for their thoughts. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Right. And so we believe in technological progress that doesn't actually bring us salvation, right? And so what is technology really doing for us? We are doing a lot for technology. We work more hours than ever before. We work 40-hour weeks instead of 20. We work 300 days a year instead of just 120 in the past. In the 1400s, people were barely working this much. What has happened is this. Human beings have 24 hours in a day. They sleep 8 hours. Okay, you got 16 hours left. What do you do with them? It used to be so you spend 2 or 3 hours. Hunter-gatherers only work 2 hours a day for the hunt, and then they're done. The rest of the day, they hang out with friends, they bask in the sun, they tell each other stories. They're robbed of this. When you put a person like that in a cubicle in an American corporation, make them work 10 hours a day, working on data sheets and Excel sheets and PowerPoints, what you're doing is you're robbing their spiritual life and you're making them donating it to the economic life. So you can have either God or Mammon. You can have a spiritual life or an economic life, but you usually can't have both. And I think we in Europe have maxed ourselves out. Why do the elites really want immigrants? Because immigrants are young, they come from poor countries, right? And they are still gullible. They still want to work for the economic wealth they think they can get. Whereas us white people who have lived through 2 or 3 centuries of industrialism, we realize now that it's not bringing us salvation and we want out. We don't want to do this anymore. Leave us out of it. So we want to return to a life where we have more free time, where we have more time to work on our personalities, on our spiritual development, on our talents, on our skills, basically what we would call hobbies. Hobbies are maybe the real life, right? In a sense. And so I think that's what's happening. I think the white people are ready to cut loose from this economic slavery. And we start over. And it's going to look so very different. But we will have more children again. We will have the sort of free time that you need in order to become a hero, a real hero, right? People are most connected among people who share the same culture and values. Exactly. Or people of same birth. The word natio in nationalism means people of a shared birth. You come from the same mothers. Yeah, we want that. Yeah. And then they call us racist. So and then we call them assholes. So now we have the story of, is AI going to usher in the fourth revolution or something, the fourth industrial revolution? And then they talk about you use AI with your CRM system, with your ERP system. I was like, come on, people. At some point, we've got to accept that it's all a hoax. It's just a scam. Yeah, they're doing so much damage to us. Yeah, ethnic cleansing. That's what they're doing. Right? You love how I talk facts, yeah. All right. I've been speaking for almost an hour, so I'll go on a little bit more. But usually I ended at about an hour or so. No. I'll be back on Monday again. Huh? Oh yeah, I've written several books. They're not here right now. Revival of the West. I like this, my bestseller, and then I have Behold the Wanderer. These are on Amazon. So I've written novels, political works, and philosophical works, and you can just pick one, pick what you like. Just read the descriptions, right? All right, I need a sip of water for a moment. So I'll be back on Monday to talk more. I wanted to ask, did you hear about the Nashville shooting? It had to do with the rise of nationalism. No, I don't think I've heard of it. All right, so you can go to my newsletter at www.jmk.info. It's a Substack newsletter. You can also, if you want, donate me a subscription there. If you want to buy me a coffee, go to buymeacoffee.com/JohannesMK. And find me on Twitter, Twitter X, at JohannesMKX. And of course on YouTube at The Great Johannes. My usernames are a bit different all over because I couldn't get the same names everywhere anymore. Other people registered such names. So. Oh, it happened today. The Nashville shooting? Really? All right. All right. I'm going to log off, and then see you on Monday again. I'll be back with a live stream then. All right. It was fun.